your daily Cincinnati Bengals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What up, Bengals fans, and welcome to another episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast. I'm your host, Jake Liscow. He's your host, James Rapien. The Cincinnati Bengals have clinched the AFC North in dramatic walk-off fashion over the previous number one seed in the AFC, the Kansas City Chiefs, doing so on the backs of Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and a defense that gave up 3 points in the second half. But Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, to me, is where this story starts. Joe Burrow following up his fantastic performance against the Baltimore Ravens by doing it against a defense that I called the best defense that they faced this year. And there is some casino gambling going on with Steve Spagnuolo's defense. He tried to blitz Joe Burrow out of this game, but he finishes 30 for 39, 446, and 4 touchdowns. Nearly 1,000 yards in 2 weeks for Joe Burrow, 8 touchdowns, completing a preposterous percentage of his passes en route to a historic season, setting some Bengals records today and getting the Bengals into the playoffs against what I thought was the best team in the AFC.
Yeah, wow. What a game. It went like we expected, I think, of the shootout variety. Maybe we didn't predict the defense would hold the Chiefs to just 3 points, but afterwards, Zac Taylor said that's why we drafted him when asked about Jamar Chase. And boy, oh boy. Look, it's cold out there. I was on the field with no jacket on for about 15 minutes after the news conferences, but there's nothing colder than the takes about the Bengals taking Chase and it being a bad pick than after that, because no one else could have done 266 yards, 11 receptions. The 3rd and 27's insane. The touchdown to ignite the Bengals when it feels like they're out of it. I mean, I could cold take a bunch of people that are like, oh man, this Bengals team, we were naive. We were stupid to think that they could compete with the Chiefs. And oh my God, when it was 14-0 and it felt bad, but like, these dudes are just different. Joe Burrow is different. Two Bengals records, like you mentioned, most passing yards in a season breaks Andy Dalton's record. Most passing touchdowns in a season breaks Andy Dalton's record. He's up to 34 on the year, and he does it in 16 games. So it's not like it's the extra game that gives him the advantage. But Jake, I thought about it when I was walking up here to the press box to start recording this. It's like, we do a daily Bengals podcast, which means we're talking to Bengals fans every day. And a lot of you are diehard fans that listen even when they suck, or listen to hear us talk about insert whatever draft prospect over the past couple of years. Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow. It's been a couple good years, but you get our point. And so savor this, enjoy it, because you deserve every damn second of it. I know there's some videos of Jamar Chase or in Joe Burrow and Joe Mixon with cigars. I hope you have a cigar or a Built Bar or an alcoholic beverage or whatever the hell you do to celebrate. Do that tonight, because, man, AFC North champs for the first time since 2015. For the first time in the history of Locked On Bengals, the Bengals are going to the playoffs, Jake. It's a great feeling.
And I'm ready to say Joey B MVP after today. Man, like, you do this against the Chiefs. Last week, I was like, I don't know if he'll get the counting stats. He needs to go out and have a massive game against the Chiefs. And there's a real question that we'll talk about later this week about whether he'll even play next week against the Browns. Certainly playoff seeding at stake. Zac Taylor calling it a big game, wanting to just beat the Browns. We'll talk about that later. But doing this against the Chiefs today, against Mahomes, against this defense that has been nails on this winning streak for Kansas City, I don't know how you could overstate what Joe Burrow did today. And Jamar Chase, we got to talk Jamar Chase, right? Jamar Chase, 266 yards, which is a franchise record, I believe.
Is a franchise record. Remember on draft night, he said, I'm going to break all of their records. And it was cocky as hell. I'm going to be honest. It was like, holy he said that. Well, he did, and he has, and he continues to. He's got 13 touchdowns, the most by a rookie since Randy Moss. and or rookie receiver, at least receiving touchdowns. And then the 266 yards, just insane. Video game like. And a lot of you couldn't even do that on All Pro and Madden, but Jamar Chase is doing it in real life.
1429, 1,429 receiving yards for Jamar Chase in a 16-game season. That puts him at third in Bengals history, behind two Chad Johnson seasons, ahead of AJ Green's best receiving yard season, which was at age 25 in 2013. His 13 touchdowns, James, tied for Tyler Eifert with second in Bengals franchise history, behind Carl Pickens, 17 receiving touchdowns in 1995. That's maybe going to be the toughest one for Jamar Chase to break. But the fact that he's doing this at 21 years old is just absolutely stupid. Real quick, want to just mention last week I mentioned T. Higgins might be the best receiver on the Bengals. At the moment, Jamar Chase might have heard me. He's answered that call. Jamar Chase, certainly, I think the best receiver on the Bengals currently. But I just want to go back in time real quick and really quickly say that the point of that was just to say how well T. Higgins is playing. He's playing at a very high level. They've got Jamar on the other side, and Jamar Chase, I mean, mossing dudes today, James, taking the ball 70 yards after the catch. I mean, the guy showed why he was the number 5 pick. He is that guy. And with Joe Burrow, also that guy at quarterback, the future is so bright for this group in Cincinnati.
They're freaks. They're freaks. Like that, guys don't do this. Like Carson Palmer did it in year 3 after waiting a year and sitting on the bench and then growing pains as a second-year player and then the third year. Quarterbacks usually need aid. They need help. Burrow got hit a ton today, all right? And part of that was by design and what Kansas City was trying to do, but he's just so damn smart, so gifted with that ability. And Jamar Chase is cut from that same cloth. They're different, but they're the same. And they're the same with the mentality aspect of it. Oh, we're going to go there and we're going to win. And it's wild to think. I mean, I just watched a video of them doing the get the gat that I saw at LSU. They're bringing the LSU culture here. And another part of this, and we're not going to be able to hit on everything. We're just not in one show. But Zac Taylor deserves a ton of credit. He got choked up when asked what it meant to him. And he's obviously been on our podcast a bunch. I'm happy for him. I'm really happy for him because I've ripped him as much as anybody. And I think a lot of it was deserved when I did it. I think I'm fair. I'm also happy for him now because it's 10-6, division title, playoff appearance. And I think he's done a hell of a job with Burrow and getting Burrow to this point. They knew what they had when they drafted him, and they've got him in this Super Saiyan second-year superhero quarterback mode where his nameplate gets ripped off and he plays even better. I don't know what the heck is going on, but, man, he's balling.
The Bengals currently, as we're recording this, the Chargers and some other teams still playing, but the Titans won. So the Titans are currently sitting in that number 1 seed. The Chiefs have one more win. So the Chiefs are at the 2 seed. However, the Bengals currently at the 3 seed with the 1 seed in play. If the Bengals win next week and both the Titans and the Chiefs lose, and they're playing the Texans and the Broncos, so long shot. But if those teams lose,
especially
and the Bengals
the Texans,
win, the Bengals do have the number 1 seed in play, and that could be at stake next week. We'll talk about those scenarios a little bit more later this week when we discuss the decision to start or not start starters in week 18. Coming up next, so much more to talk about in this game, James. As you said, we're not going to get to all of it, but we're going to cover as much as we can, and we'll keep it up coming up next.
I think Joe Burrow's playing so damn well because he's on that Built Bar plan. I think that leg, that right knee that's ailing him and was ailing him a little bit after the game, I think it's going to heal up and be nice and good for week 18 against the Cleveland Browns if the Bengals decide to play them. And if you don't know what Built Bars are the number 1 protein bar on the planet. And it's a new year, but it can also be a new you with some simple steps. The first one, get the number 1 protein bar on the planet. They're covered in 100% chocolate, low calories, low sugar, high protein. So they taste great. They have the right macros. covered in chocolate. Everybody likes chocolate. I know I like chocolate. You got to get your hands on these. So check them out right now, built.com. And you're going to get 15% off your order with promo code LOCKED15. Don't delay. Don't hesitate. Joe Burrow didn't. And look, I don't actually know that Burrow's eating Built Bars. I guess that's the little thing at the end of the ad that I'll say. But he probably is with the way he's balling. That being said, I have one each and every day. I love them. You should try them right now at built.com. Again, use promo code LOCK15 to get 15% off.
What a game, James. At 14-0, I'm sitting here thinking like, man, we're going to be talking about not going for it on 4th down and inches from their own 30 and how he did it earlier in the year and it didn't work. And so now he's punting. And we're going to be talking about how the Chiefs punted twice and the Bengals punted the ball back to them. And we're going to have to talk about these dropped interceptions that led to touchdowns for the Chiefs. But instead, the Bengals overcame all that. And that's in large part because the Chiefs had 3 drives in the second half. And each of those 3 drives in the second half ended with kicks, 2 punts, and a short field goal. And the fortitude of will is how I'm describing this, of Lou Anarumo to call a no disguise, zero pressure against Patrick Mahomes on 3rd and 5 in the red zone is either ballsy or stupid. And it worked, so it's ballsy. I think Tony Romo was speculating about this on the broadcast. Mahomes wasn't convinced they were going to come, is what Romo speculated. He's like, they're not going to zero blitz me. You don't blitz Patrick Mahomes. It doesn't work. And it worked. And Lou Anarumo, for all the issues of the first half, going single high, I think more than they should have, getting beat for big plays when they did go single high. I mean, look at what Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill finished with. These guys that we were worried about all week this week, James, leading into this game. They hardly did anything. And Mahomes had his, but almost threw 2 picks and was bottled up in the second half. And they didn't get a sack. Trey Hendrickson's sack streak unfortunately ends, but was influential in getting the Bengals off the field in those second half drives. And I thought he had a really nice game.
Yeah, this defense came up huge. And, game script, like that's the thing is they weren't going to get 8 stops against Mahomes, but if he only touches the ball 3 times in the second half, can you stop him 2 of the times? And then forcing the field goal felt like a big stop, right? Because once they took the lead, it was like, okay, well, if they go get a touchdown, you're going to have to you end all of that if you just hold him to a field goal, because then anything wins. It went exactly how at halftime they needed it to go offensively and defensively. They get the score to Jamar Chase. The defense gets the stop. And yeah, the Bengals didn't follow that up right away with a score, but it felt like a game. And it didn't feel like it was this behind the chains, behind the scoreboard. They had to chase it as much. And in the first half, they were chasing it a little bit because they got down and they got in that hole. And before the game, I said that it was going to be a lot like Bengals Colts 05, November 20th here, 2005 at Paul Brown Stadium. In the first half felt like that. The second half did not. And that is credit to Lou Anarumo for making the adjustments. And then this defense for making big plays when they needed to. And you're right, Trey Hendrickson, I noticed him a lot. And the sack streak ends, but he's such a huge part of what they do. And they were able to get some heat when needed, at least enough to disrupt things. And again, when you limit the possessions, that's the key. You only touched the ball 3 times, so they did a great job.
And a lot of that is the incredible last drive taking 6 minutes. But when the Bengals had the ball in the second half, the first drive, they score right away. 3 plays, a minute and a half, because they get I couldn't tell. I haven't gone back to watch the play again. I couldn't tell if the Chiefs tried to run back the trap coverage that Joe Burrow threw to CJ Uzomah on the out route in the first half, where there's a go that they just let go behind it. And they're asking a middle of the field safety to get all the way over there. I couldn't tell if it was the same idea or if it was just a blown coverage from Daniel Sorensen, who's really easy to blame for being a bad player. But I can't tell what happened there. They get the quick touchdown. Then their next drives to finish the game, 10 plays, 31 yards, 5 minutes off the clock. 8 plays, 86 yards, 4.5 minutes off the clock. And then 15 plays, 74 yards, penalty aided if you want to go that way. They got calls to help extend the drive at the end of the game, and they managed it well. 6 minutes, end of game. So I think that there was something of a deliberate plan, it seemed like, from Zac Taylor and this coaching staff to try to shorten the game. And at the time, I thought that was a pretty bold strategy, but it worked out because the defense got the stops, and
Yep.
in doing so, and having a perfect 6-minute drive. Because if you're Kansas City, you kick a field goal with 6 minutes left in the game. You're like, I'm getting the ball back. I'll have a chance to at least go to overtime here, if not go win it outright. Instead, the Bengals ran. How many plays did they run? 1, 2,
15
3.
plays.
Yeah,
15.
but 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 plays, 7 plays before the field goal from the 1 or 2 yard line.
Yeah.
Incredible.
It is. And I didn't love that whole scenario there. Like, there's a lot that was going on. And we can break it down. This is a happy place because they win. But no, like, to me, like, do I love the call there? Like, some of the calls, do you go for it on 4th down? Maybe. And I get it. I understand why they did. And I probably would have too. But man, there's a lot that you're questioning, I think, doing that. But it worked out perfectly because they're able to get the first down inside the 1. It's a chip shot for Mr. Money Mac, Evan McPherson. And, the rest is history. But, yeah, there was I think there was plenty of uneasiness. Were you uneasy? I know the people in the stadium were uneasy watching them on the half-yard line get another inch on a quarterback sneak and then get another inch on the run to Joe Mixon, but still be outside of the goal line.
My heart rate was elevated. I was head in my hands a couple times, just trying to work out what was going on, trying to process what was going on. I mean, me personally, people that listen to this show know that I'm still I'm a fan of the team. I'm not a journalist, right? And so I try to remain objective and try to remain in reality as much as possible. It's one of the things that I like about what we do, James. This is one of the reasons that I love our show and I love our listeners because they like to live in reality too. But after the game, I was like, I got to talk, man. I got to remember how to speak words that are coherent and make sense and do a podcast coming up here, man. And it took me a while before I was able to talk again. I had some friends text me congratulations, like, hey man, I'll have to check with you later. I can't think right now. And so going back to what you said in the first segment of the show, James, for Bengals fans to enjoy it, I hope you are, because I am. It's a lot of fun for fans and to cover, because now we get to talk playoff football and a huge one against the Kansas City Chiefs, which I don't know if we said this. Well, I guess we said it a little bit at the beginning. Like, they've beaten the best. They beat the best that the AFC has to offer. They haven't played the Bills. They haven't played the Titans. But the Chiefs, for my money, were the best team in the AFC coming into this week.
Mm-hmm.
The Bengals just handled it. And
Yep.
the most impressive thing to me is how this offense keeps ticking. Like, this offense might just be here now. This might be it. And if you get Joe Burrow, an offensive line that's not going to get him hit 25 times a game, the ceiling for this group of skill players is the sky or the moon or something really far away.
Yeah, you're right. It's extremely, extremely high. And so that's the part of it is, what does this win mean? Right. In the grand scheme, because it could mean a lot. And I think that's what you want to go there. We could go there next. I don't want to get too much into it because I have to tell you about Get Upside, because right now Get Upside is the #1 app, an incredible app that everyone who buys gas, I buy gas, Jake buys gas, you probably buy gas, you fill up your car probably weekly, every other week. You need to know about Get Upside because our listeners are making up to 25 cents for every gallon of gas every time you fill up. All you got to do is download the Get Upside app. It's free in the App Store, free in Google Play right now. And you can use promo code TOUCHDOWN and get a bonus 25 cents off per gallon on your first fill up. That's up to 50 cents cash back. You don't got to pay full price at the pump anymore. You could start saving that money. Use it to buy some Built Bars at the Get Upside app. It's that simple. App Store, if you have an Apple, an iPhone, or Google Play if you have an Android. And again, make sure you use that promo code touchdown to get that 25-cent bonus on that first fill up. You can cash out anytime to your bank account, to PayPal, an e-gift card, Amazon, other brands as well. So again, get Upside, the free app that's going to save you every time you fill up, and make sure you use promo code touchdown.
James, what does this game mean? You want to go there? What does this game mean? Why don't you go first?
I think they are ahead of schedule now. Like it's officially official. I wasn't sure, and it was this roller coaster of a season where they would win a couple and lose a couple, and it's like, oh well, if they're 9-8 and they're not going to the playoffs, they're probably not ahead of schedule. It's just probably because they have a good quarterback, they have some talent. That's about right. Well, no, they're ahead of schedule because they did beat the best. They beat the favorite in the AFC. They beat the team that I think is still probably going to get the 1 seed. We'll see. I don't know. I have to see the tiebreakers and how it works and all that stuff. But I think they're going to beat Denver next week, the Chiefs. But yeah, so when you do that, and I'm not saying that they don't have their weaknesses. They do, right? Still questions about the coaching staff. I think that's fair. Certainly questions about the offensive line. I think that's fair. But if you beat the best this time of year, I think it's fair to say, oh, well, can you win a playoff game? I think so, depending on what the matchup is. Can you go on the road and win another playoff game? A lot of these teams, if they have Joe Burrow playing the way he's playing, in a defense that's able to at least slow down these high-end offenses, not stop. You're not going to stop them, but slow them down. You're going to have a shot. You're going to have a shot. And the thing that I really take away from today, it's not just Joe Burrow's not afraid. This team is not afraid because they got some veterans on defense. You got Jamar Chase, who just seems to shine when you need him. T. Higgins made some big plays. Tyler Boyd had the touchdown. So it was a variety of guys. It wasn't a big day for Joe Mixon, but obviously you have him. We talked about how multiple they've been. I think they're extremely multiple. They have the defense. They have a quarterback playing at a high level, and they just beat the best. So where is their ceiling this year, right? It might be pretty damn high, and it might shock some people that are probably still going to have their reservations and doubts about this team.
I think I agree. I think that this game against the Kansas City Chiefs, there are some things that went the Bengals' way in this game. And it's Chiefs fans on Twitter complaining about the officials. I don't care. You can't give up 260 yards to a rookie and complain about the refs. And, they just didn't play well enough to win the game, in my opinion. There are some things that went the Bengals' way. There were some calls that went the Bengals' way. The end of the game, not getting the ball back to Patrick Mahomes, that's a break. And the Chiefs did commit some penalties there to help the Bengals extend the drive. And those were legitimate calls. But there are also things in this game that didn't go the Bengals' way. And they dropped 2 picks, right? They couldn't necessarily protect the whole game. They got themselves into a 3rd and 27 situation. And then Steve Spagnuolo let Jamar Chase get in a one-on-one matchup and they got punished for it. And so for me, it's when you have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and a solid defense, you can be a good football team. And not to forget about the other guys, CJ Uzama, Joe Mixon, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, all these guys contributed today in their own way. But that core of offensive players with a solid defense is really good. Now, you talked about coaching as a question mark. My big one, because if you beat Kansas City, it's hard for me to really question coaching too much. I'm sure there's more we can talk about there later this week. But it's the offensive line going forward. And Joe Burrow currently is overcoming it, but he's got a pinky that's causing him issues. He had to take himself out. He aggravated a knee injury he described the Chargers game as where that started. And he's taking too many hits. He's okay. He's making plays, right? But I think that if I'm worried about a cap on this team, it is going to be the offensive line. And speaking of, Quentin Spain in the locker room after the game on a scooter, had his knee up on a scooter, wheeling his way around to celebrate. So, I mean, I certainly fear the worst there. Some sort of knee structural damage. I don't know. They called it an ankle injury, but he was holding his knee. It looked like his knee got rolled up on. So we'll wait and find out what's going on there. But it's going to be Jackson Carman and Hakeem Adeniji and Isaiah Prince. And that was not plan A, let's say. And they're going to need to level up and step up if the Bengals want to make noise in the playoffs, because, I love Joe Burrow. I think he's playing the best football of any quarterback in the NFL right now. But at some point, you got to protect the guy, because you just can't sustain offense when you're constantly under pressure. Or maybe Joe Burrow just proves me wrong and he continues to do it and they keep winning games this way.
Yeah, no, I think if you avoid taking that hit, right? And I'm not even going to get into what hit it is. I think everybody with a brain knows what I'm talking about. Then it can happen, but it is a roll of the dice. And so, yeah, that's the main cap. I don't think it's like coaching ahead of offensive line. But if the Patriots come to town in 2 weeks and play the Bengals, we're going to be talking about coaching a lot. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you're going to have to face off against teams like that and not only have more talent than them, but Bill Belichick's beaten a ton of teams that have more talent than he has on his side, and finds a way to do it.
But I would say that people thought the Chiefs coaching staff blows the Bengals coaching staff out of the water. Green Bay's coaching staff blows the Bengals coaching staff out of the water. Those were opinions that were had, and the Bengals, I mean, you can make criticisms about the Green Bay game probably, but they were in both of those games and they won one of them. It's 3-point loss, 3-point win, right?
Sure. But I don't know if, like, this game was weird. It was unique. So was the Green Bay game. But I'm just saying, like, that, is it Burrow?
It's a factor. It's a factor for sure.
Yeah. Like, I think Burrow can go head to head with anybody. I think Jamar Chase is the best. He's easily the best receiver in the AFC North. So, we can go past that, but New England doesn't have a better receiver. Like, Buffalo might in Diggs, but so there aren't many though. So, like, they had these high-end players. So what is going to cost them? And the other thing would be, pass rush, if they just can't get heat on opposing quarterbacks and get off the field. So there are other things that we could talk about. But to me, this was all right, cover your ears, kids. Oh, shit. They could actually make a run here.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I believed that before today, because I look at it logically, like you said, and I keep it very, we do that because if you don't, you're going to get way too damn high, way too low, and say something silly that's going to look ridiculous, and you just can't keep up with it. So to me, yeah, I think that they have a really high ceiling when they can go and win, beat Indy here or beat this team. Will they win 2 or 3 straight in the playoffs? I don't know, but I think that potential is there, and I don't know if I fully bought into that until today.
Here are some things that you can really like about this win. Coming off a 41-point 2-game win streak game, they have their first 3-game win streak of the season.
Yep.
And they did it against fantastic competition as home underdogs. And you take that, you like the attendance. I saw 65,000-ish in Paul Brown Stadium. Sounds like it was a great environment.
Yeah, 64 something. I forget off the top.
64,505. If it was 64, the first 2 numbers, the last 3 numbers were 505. I remember that. And so they've shown that they can string together three wins, and at least one of them against a really good team. And one other note, as I'm losing track of things that we maybe should be talking about, the Rams did beat the Ravens today. They barely scraped that one out, man. You want to talk about Joe Burrow's performance last week against the JV squad? How about Matt Stafford throwing two first half picks and barely beating a similarly decimated Ravens team 20-19? I don't think you can take away from what Joe Burrow's done the last 2 weeks, man. I mean, like I said, I think he's playing quarterback at the highest level in the NFL right now, especially the last 2 weeks. I think you can go back 6 weeks. His last 6 weeks have been fantastic, and I legitimately think he should be in the MVP conversation. He's processing at an extremely high level. The evasiveness in the pocket was on display again this week. Hopefully the knee injury doesn't take any of that away here going forward. And he's got that accuracy that's and the ability to get the ball where it needs to be on time that just makes him such a great player, and is why you hear the young Tom Brady comparisons. And I think that that's the biggest thing for me, James. That's my biggest takeaway is you have Joe Burrow, that kind of takes the limits off you a little bit.
Yeah. And we knew how good he was. Like, I never questioned that. I questioned, would it be enough to go toe to toe with a team like that?
Yeah.
And win. And especially they overcame multiple 14-point deficits. That's wild to think about, but they did. It was 14-0, 21-7, 28-14. And it was just, well, we're in it. It's all right. And they kicked the field goal. And then go in at half. They scored 10 straight. No, it was more than that. It was 17 straight. And those things are possible with Burrow and with his mindset. And one thing he said after the game too, and I think fans will enjoy this. I haven't had time to pull the clips or anything. But he said there was no better place for him from ownership on down. He praised Mike Brown, praised Zac Taylor, said Zac Taylor blew him away essentially. And I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but the first time they met at the combine, and he knew that this would be an ideal landing spot. So all of that talk 2 years later, the knee injury, all of that. And now he's smoking cigars in the Bengals locker room and they're AFC North champions with the chance to be a top 3 seed for sure in the AFC and maybe higher. Maybe it's, the second seed. Maybe it's the one, I guess, if they get a ton of help. But it's wild. It's wild to think about that way. And it doesn't have to end just because the playoffs are starting. In for the first time, I think a lot of fans will believe that. And even maybe some national pundits because of number 9. Changes everything.
It really does. A couple quick shout outs before we get out of here. James Chidobe Awuzie, fantastic game. I don't remember if I've talked about him yet or not. 7 targets in this game, gave up just 2 catches for 24 yards, was shadowing Tyreek Hill for a lot of the game, even into the slot, had a fantastic game. Trey Flowers came on, gave up a catch to Travis Kelce, I believe, but 3 targets for 7 yards for Trey Flowers. He did give up the touchdown, but Trey Flowers, a little bit of a productive day there. And the last thing, speaking of things that Joe Burrow said that I think Bengals fans will like, one of the quotes that stood out to me in his press conference was he was asked if it means a little bit more because of all the talk about, Joe Burrow should do everything in his power not to go to Cincinnati. And he said, I think it means a little bit more to me because I'm from Ohio and because I know the history of the Bengals and he knows what they've been through. Then he went on to praise Mike Brown, and maybe that was a quote that you were talking about, but that really stood out to me as well. Has that hometown pride, was the right guy for this organization at the right time, and in his second year has got the Bengals into the playoffs, clinching the AFC North at 10-6 in week 17. Plenty more to talk about with this one. We're going to have a film review coming up in a couple of weeks. We're going to have, or a couple of days, on Tuesday.
And a couple of weeks.
And tomorrow, with some time to process what we've seen, a lot more to talk about in this one. It's the Bengals. We'll look forward to a pressure-free, relatively speaking, Week 18 matchup up in Cleveland. Until next time, Bengals fans, thanks for listening to the Locked On Bengals podcast this whole way. If you're new to the podcast, hope you stick around. The Bengals won the AFC North. Hoo day, and have a good one.